Mr. President.
The senator from Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I come to the floor today to talk about inflation. And one thing is sure, Joe Biden is the president of high prices. New numbers are out today. This morning we found that inflation remains the worst it's been in 40 years. 40 years, Mr. President. Now, we knew that today's inflation numbers were going to be bad for Americans and bad for the administration, but the numbers today were worse than people thought. Prices rose nearly 8% in just the last year. That means we're now seeing more inflation in the last 13 months under President Joe Biden than we did in the previous 4 years, and families are suffering. Prices are going up, but wages are not keeping up. Last week, we found out that wages, in terms of an escalation, have slowed down a bit, which means that people are falling further and further behind. Wages cannot just keep up with the prices that continue to go up. Month after month after month, the American people have found themselves falling further and further and further behind. I remember when Joe Biden told all of us that inflation would be transitory. Kind of laughed about it. He said it over and over again. And then in December, he said inflation had peaked. Mr. President, inflation had not peaked. Not at all. Joe Biden, once again, dead wrong. Now, the American people are reminded about this every time they go to the gas station, every time they go to the grocery store, every time they go out to purchase goods. So why is this happening? What's happened to America under Joe Biden and this management of this Democrat administration that has the House, the Senate, and the White House? Well, there are two main things. One is Democrat spending, excessive spending. The other, of course, Democrat restrictions on American energy. 1 year ago, Joe Biden signed the largest spending bill in American history. Democrats put $2 trillion on America's credit card. They flooded the country with government cash, and prices went up. And ever since that day, prices have been going up faster than wages. There's still no end in sight. The painful truth of all of this is energy prices, food prices, all across the country are going to continue to go up, thanks to the mismanagement of Joe Biden and this administration. Today, a gallon of gas in the United States is the highest it has ever been, ever. When Joe Biden took office, the average price of gasoline in America was $2.38 a gallon, and today it is about $2 a gallon more than it was then. And coming from the home state of Wyoming, where people drive more miles per capita than any other state in the country, people in my state are really feeling the pain of the mismanagement by Joe Biden and the Democrats. When you think it's bad in Wyoming, let's go to the liberal paradise of California. I mean, I don't know what it is, Mr. President, in your home state of Hawaii. I know in California, $5.60 a gallon. Summer's coming, and people are expecting the prices to get even higher. So what's Joe Biden's answer to this? He's blaming everything on Vladimir Putin. Everything. It's a convenient excuse. It's just wrong. By the time that Vladimir Putin started to encircle Ukraine and then actually invaded Ukraine, inflation had been roaring here at home for over 10 months. Gas prices were already way up, $1.25 a gallon higher than they were the day Joe Biden took office. So Biden's numbers just don't add up. Russian oil amounts to about 3% of our energy use in the United States. Gas prices haven't just gone up by 3%. No, they've nearly doubled during Joe Biden's presidency. And the real reason that prices are up so much for energy is that Joe Biden has restricted our use of American energy. You listen to him go back to the tapes of his on the debate stage when he was running for president. He said he's going to keep it in the ground. No oil and gas or exploration or coal on public lands. None. Zero. The White House press secretary the other day said, oh, we're at record high production. We're not. Mistake. Absolutely wrong. She should be fact-checked. We are at over 1 million barrels a day, fewer U.S. barrels of oil produced today than we were during the height of our production before the pandemic. Actually, 1.4 million barrels a day, fewer barrels today than we were at the height of our production before the pandemic. Well, when supply goes down as a result of the mismanagement and the decisions made by this Biden administration and the refusal to allow for permits to explore for energy, prices go up, and they have. And when the prices of energy go up, the prices of everything else goes up as well. So what are the Democrats proposing about high prices for energy? Well, the answer for Democrats seems to be anything except more American energy. Democrats have essentially floated 3 proposals. One is defund our roads and bridges. The second is buy more energy from our enemies, people that chant death to America, or keep prices high. Those are the options we hear from the Democrats. We see some frightened Democrats worried about re-election talking about suspending the gas tax and then bringing it back right after Election Day. Well, the gas tax is what pays for the roads and the bridges and the highways of our nation. But bring it back right after the election. Well, does that mean we're going to need less energy after Election Day? So it's okay to raise prices after the election? Of course not. Even former Clinton and Obama economic advisor Larry Summers calls this proposal being introduced in this body by members of the Democrat side of the aisle, he calls it short-sighted, ineffective, gimmicky, and goofy. That's Larry Summers from both the Obama as well as the Clinton administration. If we completely repeal the gas tax, gas prices would still be $1.75 more a gallon than they were the day Joe Biden took office. So the other option, another option the Democrats are floating is, hey, let's buy more energy from our enemies. Wouldn't that be a great idea, says the president. So officials from the Biden administration have gone hat in hand to Venezuela last weekend, as well as to Iran. So Venezuela is one of the closest allies to Vladimir Putin. I understand the current man in power in Venezuela actually called to congratulate Vladimir Putin for what he's doing in Ukraine. So is Iran in terms of world's #1 sponsor of terrorism. That's who Joe Biden has chosen to talk to, Iran and Venezuela, rather than United States energy producers. Do we want to pay our worst enemies over $100 a barrel for each barrel of oil they will sell to us? Do we want to send billions and billions of dollars of hard-earned taxpayer dollars in this country to those who hate us and burn American flags and chant death to America? Or do we want to create jobs here at home, produce more American energy? The answer is obvious to most American people. It may not be obvious to the man in the White House or his administration or those around him, but Joe Biden would rather have an enormous transfer of wealth to our enemies than tell the climate elitists who he dances to the tune of that we are going to produce energy at home. Now, finally, some Democrats are just proposing, let's keep energy prices high. The Secretary of Transportation says, just buy an electric vehicle. That'll solve all our problems. He said, you won't have to worry about gas prices no matter how high they go. It's okay if they go high as long as you buy an electric vehicle. Talk about being out of touch. The average electric vehicle costs over $55,000. Families who are struggling in this Biden economy, they can't afford to spend $55,000. We have many, many Americans living paycheck to paycheck, falling further and further behind. And the Secretary of Transportation says, hey, just go find $55,000, buy an electric vehicle, and you can plug it in. Well, where do you think the electricity comes from? It doesn't come from the wall. You talk about an administration being out of touch. That's what we're dealing with in this country today. 2/3 of Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck. And this morning we had a hearing in the Energy Committee and said, well, what about everybody trying to buy an electric vehicle? Can we do it? And what do we hear? Well, you'd have to buy a lot of things from China or Russia just to get the rare earth minerals that are needed to build the batteries for the electric cars. What does Elon Musk, Mr. Tesla, say? He says, produce more American energy. Time for the President of the United States to wake up. So it's really not an option for everybody to get an electric vehicle. Even if everybody had the money, there's not enough electric vehicles to be had in anywhere in the not just near future, in the foreseeable future and beyond that. Another option is not to send billions of dollars to our enemies. After all, as a State Department official from this administration told us in the Foreign Relations Committee, as Putin was building up before the invasion, but building up the army around Ukraine, said that Putin's energy was the cash cow that was paying for his military aggression. The American people deserve better solutions, rational solutions, solutions that they understand, and they understand American energy. Just yesterday, Joe Biden said, I can't do much right now to bring down prices. It's not true. Last week, the morning after the State of the Union address, I, along with every Republican on the Senate Energy Committee, every Republican signed the letter, sent it to Joe Biden, offered 10 points that he could do and do now to make a difference for American energy production, to help the American economy, to help with jobs, to help with energy production, and to help bring down the cost of energy. We know what we need to do. To bring down inflation, we need to stop the reckless spending here in Washington, D.C. Of course, that's gone now. Democrats on a single-party line vote with no Republicans voted for it did that last year to spark inflation. And then all of the rules and regulations and limitations on Americans' use of energy has added to it and contributed to, today, a 40-year high of inflation. Above all, we need to unleash American energy. We need to use American energy. More American energy will bring down the prices. We have it. When the Secretary of Interior makes a statement, she wants us to keep all the oil and gas in the ground. That's a statement about this administration's lack of commitment to use American energy. We have the opportunity in America to do it right. For more than a year now, the American people have been paying and paying and paying for the Democrats' anti-American energy policies. And they're sick and tired of it. You turn on the TV and you see what's happening out there in the world, in Ukraine, with people getting killed by Vladimir Putin, a maternity ward, at a hospital, bombed, people killed. And what did former Secretary of State John Kerry, the Democrats' climate envoy, say with an interview to the BBC as the Russian troops encircled Ukraine? He said, I hope it doesn't distract from our climate agenda. Mr. President, that's obscene and it's absurd. The American people realize how absolutely ridiculous the position and how untenable the position of this administration is when you have the #1 climate spokesman for the administration, a former Secretary of State, somebody who was a member of this body for years, close colleague and friend of the President of the United States. It's time for Joe Biden to stand up to John Kerry and to stand up to the climate elitists who say, oh, no, no American energy, because we are so pure. The American people know what's important to them in their lives. We all want to make energy as clean as we can, as fast as we can, without raising costs on American families. The administration seems to be happy to see the prices go up on American families at a time when their wages are not keeping up with their expenses. It's long past time, Mr. President, that we produce American energy and do it right here. We have the resources, we have the know-how, we have the workers. We're only missing one thing, and that's competent leadership in the White House and in the Democrats in this body on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.